And I was in Indy, and we were going back and forth with the Heat, and they knocked us out of the playoffs 3 straight years. Yeah. And people be like, man, no, it's tough. I'd be like, no, it's not tough. Because, yeah, you want to win, but, we're literally doing everything we're supposed to do. Like, as a player, we had a committed group in Indy, so everybody to a man could accept, like, the Heat just got us. Like, we prepared, everybody's working out, everybody's in shape, everybody's, we back in the gym in August trying to get ready, and they still clip us in June. You did everything that you could possibly do and come up short. When you do what you're supposed to do, you can accept, like, when your role has to change. You can accept when things have to shift. But typically guys struggle with, I gotta move to the bench, or I've gotta, no longer be the leading scorer. Like, I was the leading scorer in New Orleans when I was down there with CP. And then when I went to Indiana,
it's different.
It's Paul George's show. So I'm not gonna be the leading scorer on this team. Like when I was with CP, I was the number one option. Like when we started the game, the ball touched my hands. I had that for 8 years or 6 years. But then you go to Indiana, I'm a little bit older, still gonna be, have a role on the team, but now my role was more or less, I needed to be a leader. I needed to control the locker room. I needed to help create the identity for the team. I needed to hold guys accountable to make sure we were being professional every single day so that we could be productive when we had to play games. And then, my shift to San Antonio and Golden State was literally, I'm just here to fill in the holes, whatever y'all need me to do. I was there to learn. Going there to learn was my main thing, but like, I'm here to plug in the gaps. Like, you need somebody to rebound, you need IQ, you need a passer from the elbow or I can do that. You know what I mean? And so part of it is about you being humble enough to recognize, like, it's time, and it's hard, man, for NBA guys. Never say that someone should think or be like me, because it's hard. You grew up your whole life, everybody's saying how great you are, and then all of a sudden it's like, you get to a point in the NBA where they're like, you got to come off the bench this year, or you got to, and a lot of guys, it's tough. There's some superstars that never accepted that, so their careers
started going down the drain.
But their career ended way sooner than it should have. They should have kept playing, but they couldn't accept the role of not being the top guy, couldn't accept the role of not coming off the bench, and then accept the role like, hey, you're coming off the bench, but you're not gonna be like the first or second guy off the bench. You're gonna be third or fourth or fifth. Like, all of that, you gotta have a certain level of humility to be able to accept those things. That's why I respect Jared Dudley a lot, because Jared was a heck of a player at Boston College, and he had some moments in the league, but he understood, like, his value was being a role guy. And
you guys are teammates for?
No, we weren't teammates.
You guys are just
but I know him, and I know the type of impact he has on locker rooms, and he knows that that's a role that teams legitimately need. That's why he's been in the NBA, because locker rooms are volatile spaces. You don't necessarily have, great people in locker rooms. We assume that guys, doing the right thing, but you don't know.
That's true.
So he's found a role for himself, but those roles are important. We had a team in Indy where we traded one of those role guys, and he wasn't necessarily a role guy on the floor, but he was a glue guy in the locker room. He connected everybody and kept everybody together. And then when we decided to move him, well, it may not hurt us on the floor, but it hurt us in the locker room.
It's gonna hurt you.
Reminded TJ of this. It's like one of the hardest things to do is to get people to speak well of you when you're not around. Like, when you're around people, like somebody, he was a great guy. But when you're not around and somebody has to vouch for you, or somebody asks a question about you, people have got to be able to speak well of you when you're not around. And the reason why that is because, particularly once you get beyond high school, the collegiate level, the NBA level, the professional level, it's all about relationships. And everybody knows everybody. So this coach knows that coach, that assistant worked for that coach a few years ago, and then each went, and there's constant dialogue and constant conversation. Because, one of the things that we always remind guys is that every game you play in the NBA is an audition for the other 29 teams. Every night. Because they're scouting, they're looking, in 2 years you might be a free agent, and people have to be able to speak well of you in order to get people to buy into what you are and what you do. And if you're the only one that's speaking well of you, it ain't happening for you, bro. Like, and a lot of guys just miss that point. Like, there are guys I watch now and I'll see, and I'll be like, he don't got a shot. And he don't even don't realize that he's hurting himself, crippling himself just by the way that, he's reacting with his coach, interacting with his coaches on the sideline, the way that he's being standoffish when he comes out the game. Like, at the pro level, they watch everything. And, probably the issue that I'll have in terms of like how you deal with the other stuff, right? Knowing what you need to do is you got to understand, like, this is a job for people. So that coach, that general manager, that team president, that director of basketball operations, that player personnel, they're basically bringing you in and putting their job on the line, vouching for who you are. So that's why, I tell people, don't cuss out your AAU coaches, because they are usually the first people that the NBA scouts call. Yeah. Don't fuss out your high school coach. Like, because as soon as he gets a chance, as soon as somebody calls him, you know what? Yeah, he cussed me out when he was a junior in high school. Oh, he did? And kids don't realize that this stuff stays with them. So the best, you got to understand that who you are as a person oftentimes carries more weight than what you do as a basketball player or an athlete on the field or on the court or whatever sport you're playing. Because you got to have certain characteristics about yourself that people will know and trust. Okay, we can trust him. He's gonna open himself up to be coached. He's gonna open himself up to accept this secondary role on the team. Or he's a kid. He's mature enough to know he's not gonna play tonight, but we're gonna need him tomorrow night. Like, all of those things matter. And for whatever reason, a lot of young athletes brush them aside. But I never seen a guy work harder to play 4 minutes. They play 4 to 6 minutes a game, but every day in practice, doing what the coach asked him to do, accepting the fact that he's only going to play 4 to 6 minutes, and said, okay, that's the reality of my pro life, and didn't try to fight it. Didn't cuss the GM out, didn't come into practice trying to fight anybody. Understood it, understood his role well.
I was gonna go a little bit back to, a lot of people, they know you as obviously the NBA player. So people don't know is you were born in New Jersey, right? So where did your upbringing and things like that, where'd you find your passion in the game? Where did it come from?
So I was born in New Jersey. My brother was really my first basketball hero. It was we got like 16 years between us. So when I was young, he was in high school, college. So I'm like looking up to him and going to his games, and that's really where I developed like that. This is what I want to do every day. Yeah. And then started playing organized at like 5 or 6, and then went all the way through until I was 37. I mean, that's the reality of it. Spent 2 years down in North Carolina, my junior, senior year at Garner.
Was there a culture shock a little bit when you came?
Yeah, it was. But it wasn't. The only difference was like everybody down here was like an athlete. Like, okay, in New Jersey, like the separation, like you hoop or you football, you're just a regular dude. Like all that was clear. But like you come down here and everybody can jump, everybody can run, and so it's just
it's in the water.
Yeah, it's just a different. It's just a different. Down here, it's more consistent. Just in New Jersey, it's more about sort of your free time. You go hoop in the park and stuff like that. Down here, it was more, you go inside to play, you play with, AAU organizations, that type of thing. So basketball culture was a little bit different. I tell young kids, like when I was young, like my dream used to be like right here. Messed up academically my first couple years in Jersey. So by the time I was a senior, I wasn't eligible to graduate. So I had to do an extra year.
Hargrave.
Yeah, right? I flunked Garner, and then went to Hargrave for a year. And even in the midst of all that, like, questionable stuff, like I was like, okay, I'm still going to the NBA, and it was crazy because I never knew like where that came from, because I was never the most overtly talented dude. Like I couldn't dunk off of 2 feet till I was a senior in high school. Like
you were 6'8" then too?
Yeah,
you could.
Yeah, but you know what I'm saying? Like, but I just knew that there was something different about the way I thought than anybody else. I just knew it, and then. As time just went on, basketball it grew. I started to get better. I finally got a scholarship that I was sort of aiming for from Xavier.
Was that the one, or was that one of many, or like?
No. That was one of maybe 4. I had
Really?
ECU. I wasn't in North Carolina. I don't know whether it was because I was a newbie, like a transplant in as a junior, but I never really got ranked in
At
the
all?
state. I think going into my senior year, I was number 99 in the state, or something like that. And before that, I was 150, 170 or something. And then, it was I was just kind of under the radar. Started every game of my college career.
You played under 2 coaches, right?
Played 2 coaches, Coach Prosper for 2 years, and then Coach Thad Mata for my last 2 years. But, I had a good college career, enjoyed it. With the NBA, I got drafted 18th. Definitely.
You were in that loaded class too.
Definitely should have been higher. But I accepted, I accepted what they saw. And I remember that was a criteria for me hiring my agent. I brought all these different agents in, and everybody lied to me, but like 2 or 3 of them.
What was the difference? What they said?
Well, Octagon told me the truth. They said, look, you're going to go between 14 and 20. And that was disappointing for me because I knew that I was better than